Jaxson Dart looks like he's ready to return as QB1 this week against the Lions. Does that mean Mike Kafka is going to change up his play calling to protect him? Abdul Carter, well, he's ready to put all the noise behind him. And Brian Burns has made it known. My man wants 20 sacks this season. It's week 12, and this is Blue Rush by the New York Post. The Giants are heading up to Detroit where they're 10.5-point underdogs against the Lions. What's up, everybody? I'm Brandon London, and thanks for watching. Blue Rush. Paul Schwartz is the man with all the sources and the storylines. You see him there smiling. Paul, let's start with the biggest storyline of the week. Jaxson Dart is slowly making his way out of concussion protocol. Hopefully for Mike Kafka, there will be no setbacks and he'll be good to go. First and foremost, what's going on, Paul? Saw you yesterday, but what's going on? And what do you think about Dart's return or possible return?
Where did you say they're playing this weekend?
In Detroit, Detroit, if you speak Francais.
You see, you can tell you're not a New Yorker. You put the accent. You say Detroit, right?
Yeah, Detroit.
Detroit. I say Detroit.
Ah, okay.
You know, I don't know what's right. I don't know what Michiganers in Detroit. I always say where you go this weekend? I'm in Detroit. You say Detroit.
Detroit. The D. They call it the D. The
okay, I'm not saying
8 mile. Okay.
It's different. Okay, so I will be flying into Detroit. Yes, this weekend, and yes, Jaxson Dart will be there. He will be playing. Look, I mean, anyone who's saying, "Oh, they're rushing," you know, I've heard some crazy stuff. They shouldn't play him. You know, what's the point of playing him? I mean, look, he's a rookie. He needs to play. The whole beauty of this season is with a record in the dumpster fire is that you can play this rookie and he can get better and better. So maybe next year they can actually, like Eli Manning, who was bad in a bad, who was a bad player as a rookie for a bad team, and by his second year he was a better player and the team was ready to win. Okay. We'll see if that can happen this year. So, yeah, he's non-contact practice, full practice on Wednesday. Now, he's wearing red, right? Quarterbacks always wear red. So, non-contact practice for a quarterback is kind of a misnomer. There's never any contact for a quarterback in practice. So he went through the practice unless he has any setbacks. Now, look, he can have a setback. Hopefully he doesn't. But this is not just rubber stamped. He'll have to meet with an independent neurologist probably Thursday, I would guess, and then he could be cleared Thursday night or Friday. But yes, there is, 99.9% expectation that he starts. And, Jameis Winston did some good things last week, but that's kind of like a stopgap, right? We all want to see what Jaxson Dart can do. And will he have some rust? I mean, he missed a whole week. And maybe he'll have some rust, but he's back. And the fascinating thing to me, Brandon, I want to get your thoughts on this. Will we see a more hesitant quarterback? Once you have one concussion, you're more likely to have another. He's been talking ad nauseum. People have been telling him, maybe not the coaches, but certainly in the media, you need to be more careful. You need to protect yourself. You need to get down. Mike Kafka is his play caller. He was his play caller when he was the offensive coordinator. Does he call for fewer RPOs and runs, designated runs for the quarterback? We'll see. But look, one of the only things to see about this season is Jaxson Dart's development, and we get to see more of that this weekend. In where, Brandon? Where?
Detroit.
You can't just say it your way.
You got me. Now you have me in my head. Like Jaxson Dart could be in his head this game because when you have that concussion, it's one thing that he was in the tent a lot when it came to like the independent spotters and all, always going to the tent. That started back in the preseason. It's one thing to have that scare, but then when you actually have the concussion and you know what they mean and you know how they can affect guys' game going forward, it's almost like with a receiver when he comes back from a knee injury. You're always in your head thinking, all right, is my knee good? I can go up for the pass, but am I going to, when I come down, if I land, am I going to be okay? And that's something that I wonder if that affects him more than the rust of being off for a week. And if I'm Mike Kafka, if I'm Joe Shane, John Mara, I wrap this kid in bubble wrap when it comes to playing this Sunday. And it may be ugly and people make fun of them all the time, Paul. I may even suggest to him that he wears a Guardian cap become the first quarterback to play in a Guardian cap, because I understand what people are saying. Like, I'm going back and forth with people on Twitter, and they're like, well, he needs to get Offensive Player of the Year. Oh, he needs those reps. It's like, no, he doesn't need Offensive Player of the Year. Yeah, he needs some more reps, but he needs to be healthy for game one of next season. He needs to be healthy day one in the new offseason program, because with the new coach, that offseason program is going to get bumped up 2 weeks, and they're going to report earlier. So I don't want Jaxson Dart to miss any time in the offseason by having to rehab and recover. I want him to be able to hit the ground running going into his second year. So does this change how Mike Kafka calls a game? Yes, I feel like he does. I feel like he needs to take the approach that he took with Jameis this past weekend, running the ball more on first down, getting the quick game going on the first downs, on first and second downs, really getting the ball out of the hands of the quarterback. But at the end of the day, I hope this is this is that warning to Jaxson Dart to let him know, hey, you get out of the pocket, those extra 3 yards, we don't need those. Just get down, slide, live to play another
look,
down.
The bubble wrap thing I don't like, because look, I think there are ways that they can mitigate some of the harm's way he will be in. But Brandon, look, Brandon, let's say you came back, right? You were a wide receiver, right? Let's say you had a concussion, God forbid, and you're coming back. So if I told you, okay, Brandon, here's the deal. You got to be careful. Okay. So you go over the middle, you think there's a safety coming, alligator arms. Don't make that catch. Okay. You can't get hit. You're going up. The safety's coming at you. No. Give up on that play. You can't do that. You know what I mean? You can't,
No, I know.
If you did that, you'd be taken out of the game, and your coach would say, what are you doing? Are you playing or not? So look, there's ways to do it. I think if it's 3rd and 3 and he's got like 1.5 yards to go, he's going to fight for a first down. Okay.
For sure.
But if it's 3rd and 9 and he's got 6 yards, he doesn't have to fight for the next 1 or 2. Will they call quarterback sneaks, 3rd and goal from the 1? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. That I'm not so sure. Maybe let Singletary or Tracy get it, or fake it and throw it to Theo, something like that. So I think you can mitigate some of that. You certainly can mitigate some of the RPOs, but this can't be a situation where they say, all right, the main thing is you have to stay healthy, because you can't play that way. You tell them, as soon as a guy comes in your face, chuck it away, throw it away. You're not going to run. I mean, that will do nobody any good. And you can't avoid injuries if sometimes being tentative is the worst thing. So he has to play football, and the Lions are going to be playing football, and they're going to be taking every shot at him, maybe slide a foot sooner or a half second sooner, all those things. But look, if he gets hurt, hopefully that does not happen. There'll be second guessing on why he was on the field. And you can't second guess why he's on the field. It's not the last game of the season. He's got to play. Yep. He's got to play. He's not a finished product. So you just hope it doesn't happen. That's all.
One thing that's going to be telling, it's going to be a 3rd and long situation. There's going to be a receiver kind of getting jammed up at the line. He's going to have to wait until that receiver gets past the sticks before he's able to make that throw. Now, if he can confidently, and let's say, the Lions, Aiden Hutchinson, these guys, they apply pressure. There's going to be a free runner, and that's going to blitz, and he's going to have to hold on to that football and what we say stare down the barrel of a loaded gun, and he's going to have to make that throw knowing he's going to get hit. That's where we're going to know where his head is in terms of, is he locked in the moment and he's ready to play football, or is he still in his head? Because we've seen this kid take hit after hit after hit, throwing the football down the field, holding on to the football to the last second to allow that receiver to get open, and then he makes that throw. And it's an accurate throw that gives that receiver a chance to make that play and make that catch. I think that's what I'm going to be looking for. Not so much the design runs, but if he can still step into that throw and he's not worried about that hit, then I think he's got the cobwebs, all the rust, all that stuff is shaken out of him, and Dart's back to being Jaxson Dart.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's more interesting for Giants and their fans if Jaxson Dart is on the field, and he'll be on the field this weekend, and that's a good thing.
So the one thing we're watching with Mike Kafka in his second, head coaching, his second game as interim head coach, we're gonna watch the way that he calls the game or manages the game for Jaxson Dart. Are there any other changes you think Kafka is going to make now that he's the head man in charge?
There was questions, is he gonna come in, be named head coach, and then fire Shane Bowen, the defensive coordinator? That did not happen. Then they play a game, and they don't play great on defense, and they lose last week, right? To the Packers. Is he gonna fire Shane Bowen? I don't think he's gonna fire Shane Bowen. I just don't. He's trying to do everything he possible now. A new head coach is new enough. He's going to start firing guys willy-nilly and put a new defensive coordinator in. They can't change a lot of things. I think they're going to ride this out. Now, he can go to Shane Bowen and say, look, here's what I want to see from your defense as far as aggressiveness, as far as maybe some personnel deployment, things like that. And, he's the boss. So Shane Bowen has to adhere to that and then, call the game the way he sees fit. So if Mike Kafka says, I want more pressure, it's on me. You figure it out, but I want more pressure on some of these. Look, the Giants are one of the worst teams in the league, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11. It's brutal. It is brutal how often they give up first downs in third and situations that is advantageous for the defense. So if Kafka goes to Bowen and says, look, if it's 3rd and 8, I want you sending someone and I want you, protecting in the back and we can't have these guys sit. Then Bowen's got to do it. Now, there's some subtle things Kafka has done, and it's kind of interesting. And look, this is not stuff that fans really care about, but it's something that affects players, and it shows that he is thinking about being a head coach. Like on Fridays, for example, under Brian Daboll, and really most coaches, I think they start out with an offensive period, and then they do some special teams, then they go to defensive period, then they go to team, things like that. Kafka comes in and says, look, I want special teams right off the bat in the morning. They have their own kind of little semi-practice here, and then we go offense, defense, and there's no breakup for special teams. Is it a big deal? No, but he said he took that from Kansas City. That's what Andy Reid did. So this is the blending of organizations, right? One of the reasons the Giants really liked Kafka is because he was from the Chiefs, from a winning program, a disciple of Andy Reid. That's a good tree, right? That's a good branch, the Andy Reid tree.
Yep.
He's very successful. So he takes a little subtle thing and says, if I'm head coach, this is what I want to do. Is it going to make a big difference? No. Will it make any difference? Probably not, but it's something that he thinks helps practice flow better, and that's the job of a head coach. Get practice to flow better and be more efficient with the time you have on the field with these guys.
I know he's not campaigning for this job, subtly campaigning for this job, for this head coaching job, but there's a couple things he's doing that I like. Again, making the changes to the script because you're owning it. Now you're putting your stamp on this resume for the next 6 weeks out, 7 weeks since he got it. But now you get a chance, instead of interviewing for these head coaching jobs, which he'll probably get a chance on this cycle depending on how he's doing. Instead of just interviewing, Paul, and just going into the room with the team's GM and ownership and tell you, hey, this is what I do, this is what I would do. Now he gets the chance to show what it is that he would do. So, hey, I'd make changes to the practice schedule. Now he's showing you I'd make changes to – or I'll show you what my defensive philosophy would be as a head coach. I want more pressure. I like more of a Wink Martindale type defensive coordinator than a Shane Bowen type defensive coordinator. So Mike Kafka, I think he understands what's right there in front of him. And again, you're not auditioning just for the Giants, but you're doing it for the 31 other teams out there, or whichever teams need a head coach in this coaching cycle. And you mentioned him taking things from Andy Reid. Pat Fitzgerald, longtime Northwestern Wildcats head coach, was at practice yesterday. He was there when Mike Kafka was at Northwestern. So you wonder what those conversations have been like with Pat or Coach Fitzgerald in terms of getting advice on how to run a team, how to run a Fortune 500 type company. So Mike Kafka, I don't know, Paul. I have him in my short list, my way too early short list right now as a guy to take a look after and take a hard look at for the next head coaching to who could be the next head coach here because of these things that he's doing with the change to the schedule. And now going to Shane Bowen and saying, hey, as offensive coordinator, this is how we'd attack you. This is what you need to do, or I feel as though you need to do to get the most out of the guys that you have right now. And I think that's gonna mean a lot. Finish this off with this A block, Paul, before I throw to London in the locker room. Final thoughts on Kafka and Dart's return.
Well, it's just look, he can do a lot of changing, but last week was not a change, right? They played fairly well and they lost, right? They lost to the Packers. So Lions, Patriots, it's a tough, it's scheduled eases off a little bit after that. All this stuff is window dressing, and it shows that he's organized and ready to take this next step as an interim. But I think he's going to have to win some games here and show that, look, some of this stuff, look, you can change everything you want. You can have them, practicing at midnight if you want. If you win, it's genius. And if not, it's just change for change's sake. So, are they going to be able to win some of these games? We'll see. We'll see. They don't win many games. So, it'll look, as you said, they're a double-digit upset this week in Detroit. So, the deck is stacked against them. There's no question about it.
Well, they got a winning effort from wide receiver Isaiah Hodgins, who just got off the plane on Thursday, came in, was able to lead all receivers, both Giants and Packers, in receiving in that loss to the Packers. I got a chance to go into the locker room, speak with Isaiah, because he got high praises from Mike Kafka on what he was able to do and the performance that he put out there. Isaiah Hodgins is this week's London in the Locker Room. All right, let's have a little bit of fun with Week 12, London in the Locker Room. We're here with the new guy. I guess we could call you that. Allow me to reintroduce this man. It's Isaiah Hodgins. I like to start these things off with something in the locker that is a must-have for you.
Yeah, I was saying, definitely some supplements, creatine or, my recovery supplements right there. And I got some deodorant too. And I told him, it's essential, especially after practice. A lot of people be stank just showing up to meetings. Throw some deodorant on, please. This is for around the league, so there you go.
Bad underarms and bad breath is like the two things you smell the most in the NFL locker room.
Can't do it.
Can't be us, especially as light-skinned brothers. We gotta be fly out there. All right, let's just talk about just your week last week, man. Break it down, and why do you think you were able to have so much success in your first game back?
Yeah, it was a crazy week, just getting a text, basically halfway through my meetings on Wednesday. Was looking to fly out on Wednesday night. They didn't have any flights. Had to come out Thursday morning, get straight to practice meetings. But, it's really just a testament to teammates, coaches. A lot of people were there to help me out, put in extra hours with me, help me try to remember as much as I can from the playbook, third different offense this year. So just trying to recall and remember all that. But, I was definitely just blessed and thankful for this opportunity that, God put me in the position to be able to come here and display my talents on Sunday. So
Mike Kafka, when talking to the media, said he was impressed with what you were able to do on such a short week, and said how extremely hard it was for anyone to pick up a playbook, a week into it, let alone a couple of days. What is it that from this offense that you were familiar with and most comfortable with on Sunday?
Yeah, definitely some of the route concepts and formations and stuff, but this offense has a lot, as a lot of code words, a lot of different verbiage from the last time I was here. So I was really just trying to harp on that stuff and get that stuff down so I could go into the game full confidence.
Was it more the meetings that got you prepared, or the on the field work with the quarterbacks?
Man, it was definitely both, man. Any free second that I had around here, I felt like I was doing an extra meeting with my wideout coach or with Wandell and Jameis and something, just meeting extra, getting the plays down. And then obviously, the more reps that you get on it, the more walkthroughs and stuff, it helps a lot. So the way that CAF structured the practices and everything helped me a lot.
So now what? Because you've come here before or during a short part of the season, the back end of a season after the deadline back in 2022, you led the team in receiving. You come back day one, game one, you lead the team in receiving. You've been a part of the business of sport here. So now what's your mindset going forward for the rest of this year?
Yeah, really just take it week by week. Whatever role the Giants need me to play, I'm going to try to do that the best I can. So whether that's we get people back and they say, hey, we need you to block, cool, I'm going to do that. If it's special teams, if it's red zone, third down, whatever they need me to do, I'm going to just try to do my part. And I've been a part of NFL. It's my 6th year, so I know how the business goes. People either go down or, crazy stuff happens during games, and they might need me here or there or a different position. So I'm trying to prepare myself to be ready for anything. So.
Is there a difference in Mike Kafka, the offense coordinator, and Mike Kafka, the head coach?
I love Kafka as a coordinator and a coach, man. I obviously loved him when I first got here in the 2022 year. I love him now. I think he brings a lot of high energy. He demands a lot of, high intensity and detail in his work. And I respect that. And it doesn't matter who it is, if I'm out there messing up or if it's, anybody from the quarterback to the line to whoever, he's going to hold him accountable and say, redo it, let's restart this and, attack it the right way. So, I respect that out of him.
All right, man. Welcome back and congrats on that first game, bro.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
To be able to just step in like that, Paul, and then to be able to I don't even think he had a missed assignment. I think the kid picked it up. I love how he's been through the business of the sport already, so he's kind of like relishing the moment. Isaiah Hodgins is a guy that I thought should have made the 53-man roster. He's a guy that should be getting more balls on this football team as the season goes on. And it's like when he stepped in 2022 after the trade deadline. I know they didn't trade for him. They got him from a practice squad somewhere, but he stepped in and led the receivers in receiving that year. I would like to see Isaiah Hodgins and Malik Neighbors on the same field at the same time. I know we're not going to get that this year, but hopefully next year he gets himself a roster spot.
Yeah, we'll see about that. But a couple of things. First of all, don't forget it's the same system. That's if he came from a different, he played in Brian Daboll's system in 2022 and was a really good player down the stretch. So Kafka didn't change the system. It's still the system. So, he could not have done this really with this efficiency if he was coming to a team, that he is not familiar with, number one. Now this does beg the question, why the hell didn't this happen sooner, right? I was not really going, writing every week, where is Isaiah Hodgins? Well, he was on the Steelers practice squad, right? They could have signed him. So, instead of little Jordan Humphrey, certainly, instead of Ray McLeod, certainly, they could have signed him. He's a guy that they knew. He's steady. So this is kind of the and this being an undrafted free agent, that the 3rd round pick, Jalen Hyatt, will get every benefit of the doubt. I can say probably with pretty good confidence, and if Isaiah Hodgins got every snap that Jalen Hyatt did this season, that Hodgins would have been more productive than Jalen Hyatt. But Hyatt's a 3rd round pick, and they don't want to put him on the practice squad. They don't want to cut him. But Isaiah Hodgins is a better player. There's no question about it. So that is something that you can certainly criticize about the front office and or the coaching staff, depending on what they wanted to do here. If they we're good with Hyatt. We don't need Hyatt. Hyatt doesn't play a lot, and when he plays, he's not very effective. And oh, by the way, last week against the Packers, which you chronicled very well in a video, just stopped a route in the end zone, which you just can't do, and ends the game with an interception. You just can't do it. Would Isaiah Hodgins do that? Probably not, no. Right? Because we haven't seen that. So that is a legitimate question and critique that you can say. He stepped in and in a day and a half played well. Imagine if he was here for the last 5-6 weeks.
Yeah, I think he's going to end up the leading receiver on this team again, and he's on, and it is what 7 games that he's going to play for them. I obviously root for this kid, obviously because of his story. So Isaiah Hodgins was one person I was able to talk to. I got a chance to talk with Brian Burns after you finished talking to him, Paul. So here's London in the locker room with Brian Burns, and we're going to break down the great season that he's having so far. All right, London in the locker room, week 12. We are back with Spider-Man Brian Burns. Last time we asked you to show us something in your locker that is a must-have. You had the Bond number 9, a little bit out of budget for some of our viewers. So what you going to show us this time?
Sure, I'm going to show y'all another something that's out of y'all budget.
Hey, don't stun on them like that.
Nah, I'll just show you. I keep it subtle. Nah, I got to keep my speaker. I just keep it subtle. All right. I keep my speaker on me, man. I take it to the meeting rooms or whatever when I'm watching film and whatnot. So
last 3 played tracks, go.
Right now?
The last 3 played tracks on that speaker.
Probably Sacks in the Garden.
Okay.
Maybe.
Put you on the spot.
You did put me on the spot.
My man can rush quarterbacks with ease, but can't remember the last 3 songs he played.
Because it really all be jazz.
Okay, go ahead then. Show another side of Spider-Man, man.
Yeah, but it's like a jazz playlist. Like I don't really be knowing because there ain't no words in it, so I don't know the name.
Lo-fi, like the lo-fi joints. Okay, coffee. You're a coffee shop guy then.
It kind of keep me focused, when I'm watching film. But you got a lot of like lyrics. Your mind can go other places, but when you got that, it just keep you like sane.
Okay. Well, you are sane when you're listening to jazz, but you go absolutely insane on the field. I got some numbers for you: 6'7", and 20. You've got 6 games left to get 7 sacks, to get 20 on the season. Only 2 Giants have done that: Michael Strahan, Lawrence Taylor. 1, do you know that you're that close to being in that rare of company? And 2, I mean, what would that mean to be listed in that company of guys that have had 20 as a Giant?
Well, yeah, I am very aware of the opportunity, and it'll mean everything. Obviously, like, getting 20 anywhere would mean a lot, but here especially would mean a lot more. Just following those guys' footsteps and the dominance that they had in their time, and just continuing it. And I got many years to come, so I got some opportunities to get it.
When you think of the defenses that those guys had around them, Lawrence Taylor with the Big Blue Wrecking Crew, Michael Strahan with that 07 defensive line, does it make it a little bit harder to enjoy this journey, this personal journey of your own, while you're still trying to kind of right the ship with the defense of your own?
A little bit, but at the end of the day, it's all in good faith. We still focusing on getting the win, getting the defense right, and the sacks are just coming along with it. So I take it all with a grain of salt, but I'm very appreciative and blessed.
You being a leader and captain in this locker room, not only by the production, but just by your play as a whole, running to the football, that sort of thing. A couple of your rookies were taking heat in the news, obviously Cam Scatterbo being at a WWE event, and then the whole Abdul Carter situation. 1, what do you think of those 2 storylines? And 2, what do you say to those guys if you even have any sort of problem with that?
Scat situation, nah, not really. I mean, it's not like much he can do for us right now. He's got to go through his rehab and everything like that, man. I mean, at the time, man, have fun, So as long as he's taking care of himself, being smart, and everything is cleared, then I'm cool with it. And with Abdul, we talked about it. It was a one-time thing. I kind of just told him, like, let's move on. You're a grown man. Let's handle this like a pro, and let's focus on our next opponent.
Is that something you've done in the past, or have you kind of taken more of a leadership role, more kind of like your 2 years being here?
No, I've done it in the past. I would say it took a leap when I got here for sure. And then you obviously know having a rookie in our room is it come with growing pains. So, we working through it.
Closing this season out, trying to end this season on a high note, playing hard for Mike Kafka, interim head coach. I mean, what are you guys saying, like, internally? Like take us through the team dinners or the bonding periods where you guys are just hanging. What are you guys saying internally as a team to close this thing out on the right foot?
It's mainly just doing it for us, doing it for each other, really supporting each other, having fun, playing with each other. And at the end of the day, man, all this is about pride, At the end of the day, we got 6 more guaranteed. You never know how anything can shake out, but why not put your best foot forward?
With all the hype that came in the off season around this team, did you at any point did you think it could be where it is right now?
Not at all. Not at all. Going into this season, I had high hopes. I never thought it would be here. I never thought that Leak would have been out from week 3 or whatever week it was, and Scat would have been out, and all the injuries that we dealt with in the tough losses that we had when we had the lead in the fourth quarter. I never thought we would have been here, but, hey, we here now, so what you going to do?
We're going to play some jazz up on the speaker and just keep on pushing it. All right. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, Doc.
6 games to get 7 sacks, to get 20. That'll join Michael Strahan and Lawrence Taylor. I know Abdul Carter wanted to unretire Lawrence Taylor's number, but if I'm Brian Burns, if I get 20, I might ask for Lawrence Taylor's jersey. Paul, did you think that Brian Burns was going to have this much of an impact on the season as he's having?
Impact maybe, numbers no. And Brian Burns admits that. You know, when I was talking to him, he said this, and I'll get back to my thoughts. He said, with this game, you never really know. Could I have told you I was going to jump out to a crazy start like I did this season? No, I couldn't have. He also said, could I have told you last week Jordan Love was going to slide right in front of me and give me a sack? He said, no, I can't. You know, they come in bunches. They come when they come, and you have to take advantage of them. You know, would I have told you I missed a sack on Caleb Williams? No, I wouldn't have told you that. You never really know. You just got to keep going. Now, he was, you know, he was leading the league a few weeks ago in sacks, right? And then he was tied with Myles Garrett. And so he was, you know, a few days ago, he was looking and he said, Myles has got to chill out, man. You know, Myles Garrett had 4 sacks last game, and it wasn't even a headline. I mean, it's amazing. He guy gets 4 sacks. It's not even oh yeah, by the way, Myles Garrett got 4 sacks, but Shador Sanders played, so that's the story, right? So it's now what, 15 for Miles Sanders and 13 for Burns. He knows it's going to be very difficult for him to lead the league in sacks as long as Myles Garrett is still in the league and still healthy, because Garrett is a machine. But you know, it's fine that he is into it. It's fine that that's a goal. He's not doing things out and you know, beyond the scope of the defense to get these sacks. Good for him. He's having a great year.
Yeah, and I got a chance to talk to him about like the leadership that he's kind of, the leadership role that he's grown into, that he says. And, you know, he spoke about, you guys saw the interview, spoke about what he said to Abdul Carter and had no problem with the whole Cam Scatterboo thing at WWE. You got a chance to talk with Abdul Carter. Obviously, he had the huge storyline coming out after being benched for the first series in that Packers game. What was your biggest takeaway from Abdul Carter's availability on Wednesday?
Well, I was standing there, and people started gathering around him, and he kind of said under his breath, "Well, might as well get this over with." You know, you know what I mean? And look, he was fine. He faced the music. He took ownership, as he said. He didn't want to get into great detail. You know, I had in the New York Post the details of this, where he was in the, red light therapy bed, and he didn't hear that there was a change in the schedule. And people said I'm making excuses for the guy. I'm just explaining what happened. I also wrote in the article, these are explanations, not excuses. It's not like 10 guys didn't hear the warning, didn't hear that there was a change in the schedule. He didn't hear there was a change in the schedule. So he said, okay, I can go off to this recovery room, which is kind of, in a non very high trafficked area, and go sit there and be quiet and put on this red light therapy and, chill out for 15, 20 minutes. That's on him. But he didn't fall asleep. When people say, well, he didn't make the walkthrough because he was sleeping, it sounds like he's a bum, right? Why was he sleeping? Why was he sleeping? He wasn't sleeping. He was getting therapy. He was doing a good thing for his body. But it's on him that he did not hear this change in the schedule and was not on the field. It's on him. Not a big deal, but a deal. Mike Kafka could have just dealt with it in house. He didn't. We've talked about that. Fine. He's a interim coach who wants to send a message. This third pick in the draft, everyone has to be accountable. That's great. So, Carter was good. He said, I took ownership of it. We moved on. He said, it really hasn't been that tough of a week for me. I'm a very privileged person. I feel very blessed person. I'm going to take advantage of my opportunity that I have. He said, we've talked about the fact that he has half a sack. I asked him, has it been more difficult in the NFL? Has it just been more difficult than you expected? He said, yes, for sure, but nothing good comes easily. I like a challenge. I accept the challenge, keep learning, getting better, and moving forward. So, we have to remember, I have a scouting series, right? With, Scouting of the Blue, Scout of the Blue in the New York Post every Thursday. We have unprecedented access to the Giants college scouts. So I was able this week to talk to Marcus Cooper. He's a national scout, and he was the national scout in the region where Georgia is and where Andrew Thomas played, right? So he was very high and very in on Andrew Thomas right away. He said, it was interesting. He said, I tell these guys, I'm not just looking for athletes. I'm looking for guys, and we're looking for guys who can be professional athletes. We know you're an athlete. Can you be a professional athlete? And he said, Andrew Thomas was a guy, calls him Drew. that he was a pro type guy right from the start in college. I knew that was not going to be an issue with him. Okay, why do I mention that when I talk about Abdul Carter? Well, let's remember in 2020, when Andrew Thomas was a rookie, he got benched for a whole quarter by the head coach, then Joe Judge, for being late to a meeting the night before. That Saturday night meeting, he was late. First round pick, he's the left tackle. He's a very important player. Joe Judge said, nope, you're sitting for the whole quarter. Matt Pert played that quarter, and Andrew Thomas then played after the first quarter. And afterwards, Andrew Thomas said, Coach says, my actions, there are consequences to all actions, and I have to take accountability and responsibility for my actions and take the consequences. He handled it like a man. Andrew Thomas is probably, if there's 60 players in the room, he's probably number 60 or 59 that I would say, I don't worry about Andrew Thomas. If there was a lunch pail or an attaché case or a briefcase that you take to work, he would be carrying one of those.
Yeah.
He comes to work. He's not the most exciting guy with us. He doesn't light it up with quotes. He's good. He's accommodating. He's lunch pail. He comes to work for a day of work. He's one of the better players at his position in the league. So, that is a lesson for Abdul Carter also. You get it, you accept it, you move on. It's not really a big deal. It's embarrassing, right? It's embarrassing for a week. Why weren't you on field? Well, I missed a meeting. I missed a walkthrough. I was late to a meeting. It's embarrassing. What the heck's wrong with you? You move on, right? You move on. No one's putting a red, a scarlet letter on Abdul Carter. You know what? You're a rookie. You're 22 years old. You know what? Go out there and wreak some havoc out there. Finally, he's getting a lot of pressures. He's good in all those things. Get the sacks we're expecting. Get the quarterback strips. Get the forced fumbles. Do something that makes a difference in this game. And then afterwards come out and say, yeah, I learned my lesson. I learned from this week and I'm better for it. That's something you want to see.
He also got his first taste of what the temperature could be like here in New York. Anytime that you're a guy that obviously you ask for LT's number, we see you on WWE Monday Night Raw with Cam Scatterboo, but then the production is not there. This is the type of city to where it's like they'll turn their back to everything as long as you're producing on the football field. When you're not, and then there's a report out there that goes into your effort, it's almost like it's kind of like it's Tay Banks not going for a tackle, like that type of efforts. You sleeping in a meeting room when you guys have given up double-digit losses, double-digit. You've been up double-digit leads. My goodness, you give it up double-digit leads before that. That's always going to hurt you, especially when you're a guy like Abdul Carter. So I'm glad he faced the music. Now it's time to wreak havoc in Detroit, because not only do the Giants need a win, the Lions need a win as well, Paul. So final thought on the Giants going up to 8 Mile to try and get a win.
I don't like these 5 words, but you can say if the playoffs started today, right? We say that all the time. Well, they don't start today, so it's not relevant, but the Chiefs wouldn't be in the playoffs. The Ravens wouldn't be in the playoffs, and the Lions wouldn't be in the playoffs. And I would say those 3 teams, a lot of people thought would be in the Super Bowl, right? So do I think all 3 will not be in the playoffs? I do not. Do I think the Lions will find a way to get in the playoffs? I would think probably they will. But yeah, they were not good. They were terrific defensively last week against the Eagles, but they were bad offensively. Jared Goff looked unrecognizable to the quarterback he's been this year. I mean, he's been tremendous this year, and he looked rattled as anything, right, in against the Eagles. So they're back home in Detroit, or Detroit, any way you want to say it. Sam Laporta, their terrific tight end, is out, but you know the drill, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. They have a potent offense. They have a terrific offensive line. They have a good defense. They have a coach, Dan Campbell, who I covered when he was a Giants tight end out of Texas A&M. Very aggressive, calls the plays now. We'll go for enough 4th downs. We'll be very aggressive. We'll call for fakes and things. So Giants are double-digit underdogs. Very tough assignment. Jaxson Dart coming back. He said weeks ago he likes playing in domes. He said, hey, it's great in domes. I love playing in domes. So Last time he was in one, I believe, in New Orleans, it was a mess, right? He dropped the ball once. He played well, but he tossed a couple of interceptions too. One was not his fault. One was a throwaway, but they are interceptions. He also had a fumble, so he needs to clean that up. Very difficult assignment. I don't really know what to make of the Giants, only to not really have high expectations for them. Maybe one of these weeks they'll surprise us. But as I said, the Lions, they can't be screwing around here. They're not looking past anybody. They coming off a loss. They don't have the record they thought they would. They're not in first place. This is a team people thought would be in the Super Bowl. So they got to come ready to play. Ford Field's a tough place to play. One good thing, the Giants are used to silent counts on offense, because last week against the Packers and a couple of weeks ago against the 49ers playing at home, they had to go to silent counts because the crowd was, so many, that's sad, right? That there were so many 49er fans and so many Packer fans. So now they know they have to go to a silent count. Maybe they can surprise us, but Giants don't do a lot of surprising things, do they? They kind of, you stay the course and lose, more often than not.
It's so far this season, it's been you are what we thought they are, and they haven't been able to kind of get out of that funk yet. But Jaxson Dart takes the Giants up to the Lions' Den. 10.5-point underdogs on Sunday at 1 p.m. Thank you guys for watching this episode of Blue Rush. Make sure you like, share, and comment on the episode. And please subscribe to the New York Post Sports for all things Blue Rush. Immediately after the game, lock into our YouTube page. We're going to have the live post-game reaction show. Those are fun. It's Giants Lions on Sunday at 1 p.m. Thank you guys again for watching. Blue Rush.